All right, let's jump right into this explainer and embark on what is honestly a pretty gripping journey into the invisible physics powering our world. We're talking about everything from your chunky laptop charger to your sleek 5G smartphone. We are putting the spotlight on the inductor. You know, to the untrained eye, it's just a coil of wire, or maybe a tiny microscopic speck of ceramic. But in reality, it's the central character in a century-long evolutionary arms race. Today, we're going to decode that entire evolution.
We've got 5 main battlefronts to cover today. We'll start with 1, the early giants, move into 2, the Ferrite Revolution, then 3, managing power and interference, scale down for 4, the microscale arms race, and wrap up with 5, the ultimate negotiation. Basically, we're going to trace the lineage from massive, room-sized coils all the way down to microscopic traces etched directly into circuit boards and see how engineers constantly had to trade one massive problem for another.
So, let's kick things off at the very beginning. Section 1. The early giants. This is where massive components literally fought against basic physical limitations using nothing but sheer size and heavy metal.
Our chronological timeline here really grounds us in this massive leap. We go from relying on literal empty space in the 1890s to heavy iron in the 1900s, and finally, the jump to modern ceramics around 1948. And each of these leaps was forced by a completely invisible enemy. Whether that was the demand for way more power, the desperate push for smaller sizes, or the jump to higher and higher frequencies.
Think about the air core inductor for a second. It is radically, almost beautifully simple. It's really just a coil of bare copper wire suspended in nothing, working entirely on the shape of the empty space around the conductor. This is the very first inductor anyone ever built. Nikola Tesla was actually winding huge versions of these in his Colorado Springs lab back in the 1890s. And the amazing thing about air? It is completely immune to magnetic saturation. It stays perfectly linear no matter how hard you push it. That exact trait is why the air core survived the whole miniaturization wave. Because it doesn't distort those gigahertz range signals, this absolute dinosaur of a design is still absolutely essential today in modern MRI machines.
But of course, the air core had a fatal flaw. To get a decent amount of inductance, that coil had to be physically massive. So to shrink those huge air coils down, engineers needed a cheat code. They started packing the center of the coils with iron to exploit a crucial metric, relative permeability. By using a solid material instead of empty space, they figured out a way to dramatically boost the magnetic field inside the coil.
Iron brought a relative permeability multiplier of around 200. That is a massive jump. Suddenly, the deep hum of a 1900s power station could be managed with iron core inductors the size of small refrigerators, instead of ones the size of city blocks. But remember, in engineering, every single design is a negotiation. The steep cost here? Heavy eddy current heat. Because iron conducts electricity, the changing magnetic field generated these swirling currents inside the metal itself, wasting precious energy as pure heat. Even when they tried slicing the iron into thin laminated sheets to fight that heat, iron still became practically useless as power electronics started pushing into higher frequencies.
And that brings us to the mid-20th century, where higher frequencies became the new big antagonist. Let's move into Section 2, the Ferrite Revolution. Now, what's truly revolutionary here is how ferrite's non-conductive nature killed those eddy currents entirely. Developed around 1948, ferrite basically looks like a dark stone. It's a blend of iron oxide with metals like manganese or zinc. And because it literally does not conduct electricity, those heat-generating eddy currents simply can't flow. This unlocked clean operation straight into the hundreds of megahertz. Seriously, if you're watching this on a laptop or a smartphone right now, that compact, cool-running charger plugged into your wall, it's only possible because of the ferrite core inductor sitting inside it.
But get this, material science was only half the battle. Engineers also started playing around with geometry, which raises a really interesting question. What happens when you trap a magnetic field inside a continuous, closed geometric loop? You get the toroidal inductor. High-end audio amplifier designers in the 1960s and 70s absolutely loved this thing. Why? Because its donut shape means the magnetic field has nowhere to escape. It just chases itself in a closed loop through the core material. This means it naturally blocks hum and interference from leaking out into sensitive audio circuits without needing extra bulky shielding. But the trade-off? Manufacturing. You just cannot run wire through a solid donut on a fast, automated machine. It required painstaking, expensive hand winding, which drove the cost of production way up.
Okay, let's step into the heavyweight division. Section 3, Managing Power and Interference. This is where inductors wrangle massive power loads and literally fight off regulatory agencies.
Think about a near-perfect coupling coefficient of 0.99. That specific number belongs to the coupled inductor. Imagine two coils sharing a single core. This allows the component to invisibly transfer energy between entirely untouched, isolated circuits. Switched-mode power supply designers use this incredibly tight 0.99 coupling to link multiple voltage rails together. Today, this invisible, silent synchronization is exactly what keeps the insanely complex, multi-phase power converters in giant data center servers running smoothly.
Now, early tech relied on a fascinating sequence using something called the saturable reactor. Honestly, this sounds like engineering heresy, because almost every other inductor fights desperately against magnetic saturation. But the saturable reactor uses it on purpose. By applying just a tiny DC current, the core saturates, the AC impedance drops dramatically, and massive AC power flows to the load. You're controlling kilowatts of power with a tiny signal, with zero moving parts, and doing it before transistors even existed. This is the exact tech that controlled giant arc furnaces in early aircraft radar systems.
Then we have the choke. I love this one because the name tells you exactly what it does. It sits right on a power line and just says no to anything that oscillates. The choke actually became a legal necessity to pass strict FCC emissions laws in the US and CISPR limits over in Europe. It acts as the ultimate bouncer against common mode noise in our power supplies. It elegantly handles two things at once: passing the pure direct current you actually need, while absolutely crushing the alternating electromagnetic interference you definitely don't. But as surface mount technology took over and 5G demanded higher bandwidth, our devices shrank rapidly. Inductors had to wage war on a microscopic battlefield. Welcome to Section 4, the microscale arms race.
So the absolutely crucial point for smartphones hitting modern gigahertz frequencies is maintaining a high Q factor. At 2.4 gigahertz or above, a mediocre Q factor means a mediocre antenna matching network, and for you and me, that translates directly to dropped calls and dead zones at the edge of cell network coverage. When you're working at a microscopic scale, efficiency is literally everything.
To achieve that microscopic size, engineers created the multi-layer chip inductor. These things are baked at 800 degrees Celsius. Conductive traces spiral through dozens of stacked ceramic layers, and it's all co-fired in a kiln until the ceramic and metal fuse into a solid 1 millimeter monolithic block. There is no physical wire, no bobbin. It's this exact spec of technology that makes the tiny RF front end inside your mobile phone possible.
But here's the micro-scale trade-off. While that multi-layer chip is incredibly robust, it suffers from a pretty low Q factor because its internal traces are so thin and lossy. To fight that, engineers came up with the wire-wound chip inductor. It takes the exact same tiny footprint, but wraps actual physical 20 micrometer metal wire around a microscopic core. The result? 2 to 3 times the efficiency. The catch? Extreme fragility. The ultrasonic cleaning processes they use in board manufacturing can literally vibrate that microscopic wire right off the component. The final pivot of this microscale era is the PCB inductor, operating at extreme microwave frequencies. Here, the physical component just disappears entirely. It's nothing more than a spiral of copper traces etched directly right onto the circuit board. Physically, it's essentially free to manufacture because the copper's already there anyway. But the cost shifts radically. You can't just design this by hand. It requires 3D electromagnetic simulation software that costs tens of thousands of dollars per license. The barrier to entry here is no longer physics, it's software access.
And this brings us to our final takeaway in Section 5, the ultimate negotiation. Because every single inductor we've looked at today solves the exact same ancient problem, right? How to control the relationship between a changing current and a changing magnetic field. But each one chooses a completely different path of compromise.
Every design is at its core a negotiation. The air core gives you pure distortion-free geometry, but you pay for it with massive physical size. The iron core gives you a super powerful magnetic multiplier, but punishes you with eddy current heat. The toroidal design gives you a brilliant self-shielding shape, but taxes you heavily with incredible winding complexity on the assembly line. And the PCB inductor? It gives you zero physical component cost, but leaves you with total inflexibility once that board is printed. The winner really just depends on exactly what you can afford to lose.
I want to leave you with this final, really profound thought straight from our source material. The inductor is the quietest component in almost every circuit. It is also
the one that decides whether the whole thing works or burns. It never gets the glory of the microchip or the flash of the OLED screen. But the next time you power on a device, connect to 5G, or plug in a compact charger, ask yourself, which invisible, silent negotiation of heat, size, and geometry is currently keeping your device from catching fire? Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.